What's going on, guys? This is Snake. Welcome back to a new video. Today I'm going to be doing a little tutorial for Reflex, which is a little weird because it's an old game, but there's always new people picking up the game, and this is a question I've gotten quite a bit, and I know a lot of other people that have gotten this question quite a bit. Pretty much anyone who's ever made a Reflex video has gotten this question at some point, and it's how do you whip? How do you do your whips? And it's something it's really hard to describe because, you know, I've been playing this game for 6 years, and doing whips is something that I don't really think about. I just kind of do at this point, and I don't, you know, I haven't thought back to the point when I first played this game, you know, in 2010, 2011. I never really looked back at, like, how do I actually whip? You know, I haven't had to think about it for a very long time, and it's just one of those things where mainly it's just trial and error. You gotta pick up the game, and you pretty much just gotta fail. That's the best way to learn is from mistakes and failure. But I guess, you know, in this video I can kind of go over some of the techniques I use and what I do. I was gonna record my hands for this, but I didn't have a really good way to record my hands. It was kind of awkward. So what I did was I would do a whip, and I would hold the controller right in front of my face, and then I made little diagrams on a 360 controller for you guys to look at. So we'll get into that in a second. First, I just want to talk about in Reflex, what are the practical uses of a whip, because a lot of people think it's just for style, and for the most part it is, unless you're doing the whip glitch. I will say that some people are for the whip glitch, some people are against it. I've been guilty of using it a few times, you know. If it's the last lap and I want to make a pass for a position, you know, it's very easy to just tap your front brake. But if you want to do the whip glitch, pretty much all you have to do is do a whip and hammer on those brakes in the air, and you'll notice you'll get a bit of a boost in midair. It's not very hard to do. It's one of those things a lot of people end up just doing it subconsciously. I started doing it, I didn't even realize I was doing it until someone pointed it out. But it's one of those things when you get comfortable with the game, you may start doing it, and you may not even think about doing it. It may just happen. So just a heads up, I'm not really going to talk about the practicality uses of the whip glitch, though, of an actual whip. And although this may not account for real life, this works in the game. Essentially, with a whip, it helps if you're trying to get an extra few inches or an extra foot on a, you know, supercross track, or an extra jump, or, you know, if you're having a hard time hitting that quad, you know, that it may help just getting those few extra inches without over jumping it. And why does that work? And that's because you're taking up less vertical space. If you're jumping up, you're just straight up and down, you have to account for your rider height and your bike height, and your bike sitting up is much taller if you're just jumping, you know, straight up and down every jump. Whereas if you're whipping, the bike is sideways, which makes it takes up less vertical space, more horizontal space, obviously, but it will make it easier for some of those jumps. So if, you know, I do it if I'm, you know, if there's a quad or a five, or, you know, some crazy line I want to hit, and I'm close, but just not, you know, I don't want to try and, you know, whip glitch it and OJ it, you know, just doing a normal whip will get you that extra few inches trying to land it, because you're going to take up less vertical space, even when you're coming in for a landing. And the best example for this would be the booter jump right here on the Jamie T compound. Here I'll show a clip of me jumping straight up and down, and as you can see, you don't really clear it because you're taking up more vertical space. But if you see in the next clip where I whip over it, you'll notice I can get around it no problem, although I'm pretty low to the ground. It definitely helps. And also, you know, I talked about the whip glitch. I'm also not even going to talk about scrubbing. Obviously scrubbing will take some time off, but we're just talking about general whips, because scrubs are easy to do. Everyone and their mother can do a scrub, but whips are a bit different. So I'll get in and show you my different diagrams here. So first off, coming in, I'll show you guys how I whip when I'm, you know, a normal jump where I'm leaning back. Typically, you know, if you want to get some more air or some more distance off a jump in Reflex, you put your rider weight back. That would obviously be your right stick. You'd want to lean back. And pretty much how I whip if I'm leaning back on the face of a jump is pretty much every whip. Reflex is weird, because in real life you want to do your whip on the face of the jump. Everything happens on the face of the jump, and in air, you know, it pretty much just sorts itself out. But in Reflex, that's not the case. You do it when you're in the air. So typically, since the speed you're normally going at in the game, in the shitty human reaction time, I normally start the whip when my front tire leaves the ground, because as soon as that tire leaves the ground, by the time my body actually reacts, the bike's in the air already. So I'm not tooting my own horn here saying I go fast, but when you're racing, you obviously are going pretty fast. So normally, as soon as that front tire reaches the lip of the jump, I begin to whip. So normal jump, I'm leaning back, and then what I do is pretty much I'm leaning back with the right stick. I'm not really doing anything with the left stick. And then what I do with both is, from that leaning back position, I just roll the sticks upwards, and that's if I'm rolling either way. It works if you're whipping to the left or to the right. This one, I believe, I don't remember what diagram I used, but it's on the screen right now, so you'll see I just kind of roll the sticks up, and that kind of gives you that smooth rolling action. And that's the best way I can describe how I do whips, is it's just kind of a rolling action. You want to keep it smooth. You don't want it to be very jarring. You just kind of want to roll your sticks. You don't want to move from one side to another, because that's something I see a lot of beginners do, is they throw the bike to the right and then immediately throw their sticks to the left, trying to compensate. And the thing with the whips is you only really have to throw, control about half of it, because unless you're going super fat, the whip will come back on its own, and we'll get into that later. So that's if I am just normal jump, leaning back and whipping. It's pretty much, I just roll the sticks from the bottom all the way to the top, and that's pretty much how I get the bike out there on a normal jump. Okay, so the next one I'm going to talk about is if I'm whipping to the left. Now, this is kind of a weird technique. So this is if I'm not really leaning back, maybe if it's a smaller jump and I just kind of want to throw the bike out, maybe get a little bit of style. So this is if I'm just whipping to the left, no leaning back or seat bounce, whatever you really want to call it. I'm not really messing with the rider weight too much. And I have a really weird technique for this. I haven't seen too many people do this. So when I'm not preloading, I have kind of a strange technique compared to other people. But most people would put their sticks to the left. This is whipping to the left, if I didn't mention that before. So most people would just do the left and then roll it, kind of like what I said before, and roll it to the right. Now what I do is I put them kind of on an angle. So I put both my sticks up, like kind of to the left, but on an upward angle instead of directly to the left, and then I roll them to the right. It's really weird, and that's why when if you notice me doing whips, sometimes my front end is a little higher than some other people. That's just because I typically do them on an angle, and I don't really know why that is. That's just, I guess it's maybe just the way I started doing them, and it just never went away. But that's kind of the way I whip to the left. It's a little different to other people, but it helps to learn other people's styles as well. Kind of will make you more versatile, and you'll be a little more well versed in the game as opposed to some other people. So that's the way I had whipped to the left, which again is kind of unorthodox for some people. And then I know what you're thinking now is, well, you use the same technique when you're whipping to the right, right? And it's no. That you're thinking too logically. That's not what I do. I don't really know how this works. It's weird. And again, this is a weird technique I do. Not too many people do this. But then when I'm whipping to the right, which is it's completely different. What I do is this time I do put my sticks completely to the right, and I roll like up and under, if that makes sense. So every other whip we're rolling upward. This time I'm rolling like upside down almost, which is really like, I've never seen anyone else do that, and it's really hard to get right. If you've never done it before, you're gonna notice the bike it's gonna do something crazy, and you kind of have to really pay attention to that gas and brake gyro to kind of get it to work. It's really tricky, but I don't know why I do it. It's kind of harder than most techniques, but that's just kind of how I whip to the right. For some reason, the way my brain works is I don't do whip. Oh, sorry, I hit my mic there. For some reason, when I do whips, I don't do them the same for every direction. Every time I do a whip in a different direction, it's a completely different style. So I have a weird mishmash of styles where some people will do the same whip just in different directions. I do mine, every direction I do it is a different style, which is kind of weird. But it's just, again, I think it's just the way I started out, and it's just kind of stuck with me. Okay, and then the final thing I will talk about in terms of whips is the gas and brake gyro. So I mentioned earlier, if you slam on your brakes, you'll do the whip glitch, and you'll kind of get a bit of a boost in the air. You'll get some more distance. So we're not really going to be talking about that, but obviously, you know, if you watch motocross, you know what a gas and brake gyro is. So if you hit the brake, your nose is going to drop. If you rev the tits out of the bike, your rear end is going to drop. So doing whips, the gas and brake gyro play a very key part, and that's essentially bringing the bike back in. So like I said earlier, you only really have to do half a whip, and then the rest of the bike, you know, the rest of the whip will just kind of come back naturally. And the way that works is, again, the gas gyro. So the bike comes out, typically I throw it out, it's about halfway out, and all I really do is just rev the bike, and it will kind of just straighten itself out in the air. It's a weird thing to explain, but it just will happen, unless they're like super duper fat whips and it's like way out there. It will come back naturally. That's another thing I notice is a lot of people try and pull their whips back in. It makes them look super awkward. You shouldn't really worry about pulling them back in. Like I said, unless it's super crazy, unless your bike's like completely backwards, it should just kind of come back naturally on its own. So there's two different styles when people come to revving their bike to bring it back in. There's some people that will rev the bike pretty much the entire time the bike's off the ground. Like as soon as they're in the air, they're on the rev limiter. And that works. I find that really helps if you want to do a whip very quick. The whip will happen a lot faster if you're revving the bike the entire time, as opposed to another style, which I do. I think I'm a bit more prone to do, which is you throw the whip and then you rev the bike and it comes back. And that one will be a bit more of a normal paced whip, if that makes sense. Like I said, just go experiment. If you try it, you'll notice if you rev the bike the entire time, the whip will happen a lot quicker, which will help, you know, obviously if you don't have as much air time, or, you know, if you just, you know, you want to be safe and want to get the bike back straight as possible, as quick as possible. Whereas, you know, if you're kind of going for style, you'll notice a lot of the guys won't rev the bike until they're ready to bring it back. So that's kind of what I do. I kind of wait until I want the bike to come back, then I rev it. But if I'm in a race, I'll rev the bike quite a bit. So again, it's just experimentation. But typically those are the two kind of styles you'll see people doing, watching videos or racing online. And I'm pretty sure that's about all I had to talk about whips. Like I said, the best way to learn how to do whips is just do them. You know, just play the game, have fun. They'll just kind of come. You'll just, you know, you'll start to get a feel for the physics and a feel for the game, and you'll just start doing them. Another way I learned to do them is just watching other people. You know, if you can kind of pick up on cool things other people do or kind of try and mimic other people, that will definitely help you out a lot more, because you'll kind of learn, okay, this guy does a cool thing, and then this other guy does a cool thing, and then, oh, that guy, I like what that guy does, and you can kind of mash them together and get your own little style going. So it's just experimentation. Watch other people, and you know, you'll figure it out. It's one of those things where it's very hard to explain because everybody does it differently, and that's just kind of the way I do it. If I'm going really crazy, it's pretty much the same thing, just a little bit more exaggerated, but you get the general gist of how I whip in the game. So thank you guys for watching. That's going to be the video for today. If you like the video, you should go ahead and like it. You should go ahead and subscribe to MotoHub. If you don't know who I am, there'll be an annotation or a link to my channel. You can go check it out, and I guess I'll see you guys later.